Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel Dr. Srinivas Medical Concepts and my FB page Dr. Srinivas Concepts. This is Dr. Srinivas, neurologist from Andhra Pradesh, India. I am also the medical author of the book Focused Neurology. Today we are going to talk about a very important practical topic, cerebral edema. The cerebral edema, the core concepts made easy. What is cerebral edema? Cerebral edema is swelling of the brain with an increase in brain volume due to increased water content. So cerebral edema is the swelling of the brain due to increase in brain volume, and that is due to increased water content. So basically cerebral edema is swelling of the brain and increase in volume due to increased water content. There are basically four types of cerebral edema. We need to know these four different types of cerebral edema because the pathogenesis is different and the treatment is also different. So we need to clearly know the different types of brain edema. For example, treatment of vasogenic edema is different, treatment of cytotoxic edema is different. So we need to know all the four types of cerebral edema. What are the four types of cerebral edema? The four types of cerebral edema are: one, the vasogenic edema; second, the cytotoxic edema; third is the interstitial edema; and four is the osmotic edema. So we have vasogenic edema, cytotoxic edema, interstitial edema, and osmotic edema. Right, first we'll try to know about the vasogenic edema. Vasogenic edema is because of the blood-brain barrier disruption. Vasogenic edema is due to the disruption of the blood-brain barrier. But what is the blood-brain barrier? The blood-brain barrier is the barrier of the endothelial cells, the tight endothelial cells, the barrier between the brain on one side and the blood on the other side. So basically it consists of the tight endothelial junctions. As long as these tight endothelial junctions are present and intact, anything in the blood other than few substances cannot enter into the brain because of this barrier of tight endothelial junctions. It is the gift given by the mother nature. Otherwise, all toxic substances present in the blood will enter into the brain and can cause toxic encephalopathy. And therefore, there is a tight endothelial junction, the barrier between the blood on one side and the brain on the other side. This is the blood-brain barrier. But in vasogenic edema, the example being tumors, the blood-brain barrier is broken down. Once the blood-brain barrier is broken down, the water in the intravascular space enters into the brain. So this is known as vasogenic edema. It is because of the disruption of the blood-brain barrier. But according to another school of thought and a recent thinking, there could be active vesicular transport of water across the endothelial cells also. So vasogenic edema is basically because of the disruption of the tight endothelial junctions. So when the tight endothelial junctions are broken and go away, anything, the fluid present in the blood, in the intravascular compartment, comes into the brain and causes edema. This is the vasogenic edema. In conditions like tumor, which can release proteases, they will break down and allow the passage of blood proteins also into the fluid, and therefore there is localized edema in brain tumors. A very important point lot of residents, lot of people may fail to appreciate the important clinical point that why vasogenic edema is predominantly confined only to white matter. For example, cytotoxic edema affects both the white and gray matter, but vasogenic edema is confined only to white matter. What is the mechanism? Why vasogenic edema is confined only to the white matter? There are two possible explanations. One, the white matter is a loose structure, so it allows the water to seep easily, unlike the gray matter which resists. So the white matter has got loose structural organization of white matter. There's a loose structural organization of white matter which offers less resistance to fluid than gray matter, and therefore vasogenic edema easily enters the white matter. The second explanation is that there could be special morphologic characteristics of white matter capillaries, unlike gray matter capillaries. So there could be special morphologic characteristics of white matter capillaries. So because of these two reasons, one, there is a loose structural organization of white matter which gives less resistance to the fluid entering into it, unlike gray matter. Second, there could be special characteristics of white matter capillaries. Because of these two reasons, the vasogenic edema is confined only to white matter. And therefore, when we take CT scan or MRI, you find the hypodensity because of the vasogenic edema only in the white matter. In the MRI T2 also, you find intensity changes confined only to the white matter. So the gray matter, the architecture is preserved. It could be even finger-like projections in the white matter according to the radiation, according to the spread distribution of the edema. Right. So basic examples of vasogenic edema are neoplasms and abscess. So here the treatment mainly consists of dexamethasone, steroids. We'll talk about it later when I talk about the treatment part. Second is the cytotoxic edema. So the cytotoxic edema, the pathogenesis is completely different as compared to the vasogenic edema. In cytotoxic edema, blood-brain barrier is intact. In cytotoxic edema, blood-brain barrier is intact. So what is the pathogenesis? There is an increase in the intracellular volume due to failure of the energy-dependent pumps that normally keep water from entering into the cells. So the blood-brain barrier is intact, but the energy-dependent pumps which are present in the cell, they fail. Because they fail, the water from the extracellular compartment enters into the intracellular compartment because of the failure of the energy-dependent mechanisms. So basically it is because of hypoxia and ischemia. Because of hypoxic and ischemic injury, there is a release of excitotoxic substances like glutamate. So when there is a release of excitotoxic substances like glutamate, it enhances the calcium influx into the cells. When there is calcium influx into the cells, it is followed by sodium influx into the cell. And along with the sodium, water also enters into the cell. So this is the pathogenesis of cytotoxic edema. So in cytotoxic edema, blood-brain barrier is intact. It is the failure of the energy-dependent mechanisms which normally does not allow the water to enter into the intracellular compartment. Because of the failure of the energy-dependent mechanisms, the water enters into the cells and there is a release of excitotoxic substances, calcium influx, sodium influx, which is followed with the water. So there in vasogenic edema, the pathogenesis was the disruption of the blood-brain barrier. In cytotoxic edema, which is because of hypoxia, it is because of the failure of energy dependent pumps. So here, unlike vasogenic edema, which affects only the white matter, the cytotoxic edema affects both the gray matter and the white matter. So vasogenic edema affects only the white matter, whereas cytotoxic edema affects both the gray matter and the white matter. And therefore, in ischemic stroke, when there is edema, it spreads into the white matter as well as the gray matter. So the differentiating point, the interface between the gray and white matter junction is gone. So there is obliteration of the gray, the general difference between the gray matter and white matter is lost. So it's one of the early findings to pick up in the stroke, ischemic stroke. The second important point radiologically is that CT causing hypodensity and MRI T2 causing intensity changes appear later in the cytotoxic edema, but we can see the picture very early if we do the MRI diffusion scanning. Because of the anisotropy, the signal immediately changes. So the diffusivity decreases, the anisotropy increases, and therefore when we do diffusion weighted MRI, it easily appears the cytotoxic edema easily appears. So vasogenic edema and the cytotoxic edema, the basic differences are that vasogenic edema is because of the blood-brain barrier disruption. Cytotoxic edema, the blood-brain barrier is intact. Vasogenic edema affects the white matter only, whereas the cytotoxic edema affects the white matter as well as the gray matter. The vasogenic edema, you can see it in CT and MRI as hypodensity and MRI intensity changes, whereas the cytotoxic edema can be seen very quickly using the diffusion weighted MRI, where because of the decrease in the diffusivity, the anisotropy increases and signal changes appear early. The CT and MRI changes also appear, but they appear a bit later. So cytotoxic edema can be picked up early with the diffusion weighted MRI. Why is this so important? The treatment is different. In vasogenic edema, we can give steroids, whereas steroids are not of much help in cytotoxic edema. Right. These are the two main types of cerebral edema. But there are the other two types of cerebral edema. One is the interstitial edema. The third one is the interstitial edema. The fourth is the osmotic edema. Interstitial edema we see in the periventricular regions, periventricular white matter. Because of the increase in CSF pressure, example hydrocephalus, the CSF seeps from the intraventricular area to the periventricular white matter. So this is interstitial edema, which we see in hydrocephalus. The next fourth type of edema is osmotic edema. This we see when there is osmotic disequilibrium. The classic example is treatment of diabetic ketoacidosis. When we start treating diabetic ketoacidosis, especially in children, the glucose level falls down. When the glucose falls down in the extracellular space and compartment, there is a relative hypertonicity of the intracellular compartment, and therefore it draws fluid towards the intracellular compartment because of the difference in osmolarity. So this occurs when we treat diabetic ketoacidosis, especially children, and therefore when the blood sugar level starts falling down, we have to be extra careful so as to not lead on to the pathogenesis of osmotic edema. Right. So these are the four important types of edema. One, the vasogenic edema, second, the cytotoxic edema, third is the interstitial edema, and the fourth is the osmotic edema. The treatment consists of general measures and specific measures. The general measures is that since there's already edema, we should be careful when we are going to give intravenous fluids. We should never give hypotonic solutions, especially dextrose, because it enhances the cerebral edema. This is the general measure. Specific measures, there are three types. First is the mannitol. Mannitol is an osmotic agent. So we give 25% of mannitol, 0.5 to 1 gram per kg body weight, given intravenously over a period of 2 to 10 minutes. The mannitol is an osmotic agent, and therefore when we give mannitol intravenously, it absorbs fluid from the intracellular compartment to the extracellular compartment and therefore decreases edema. Because mannitol is an osmotic agent, it causes an osmotic difference. The differential of osmotic gradient allows the water to come from the intracellular compartment to the extracellular compartment. Therefore, we give mannitol for cerebral edema. So we give mannitol 25%, 0.5 to 1 gram per kg body weight intravenously over 2 to 10 minutes. But can we keep on giving mannitol? We can't keep on giving mannitol forever. On a long-term basis, we cannot give mannitol. Because if we give mannitol on a long-term basis, it causes a pathogenic mechanism known as rebound phenomenon. So when we keep on giving mannitol, repeated administration, the brain gradient increases with the repeated administration of mannitol. The brain gradient increases osmolality, the result of added intracellular solute. Now, because of this, the absorption takes place from the extracellular to the intracellular compartment. So there could be a rebound phenomenon of mannitol when we keep on giving for a long time. So it should be given for short time, for a short period of time, usually for first few days. But if there is cerebral hemorrhage, the edema may appear slightly later, and therefore the continuation of edema, continuation of mannitol for cerebral hemorrhage may be extended for a few more days. But we cannot give on a long-term basis because it can cause rebound edema. In fact, the edema will worsen because now there's an increase in osmoles inside the brain, so it will draw fluid towards it. So this is one complication one side effects we need to always keep it in our mind. And the other mechanism by which we can reduce edema is the hyperventilation, the controlled hyperventilation. When the carbon dioxide is excess, hypercarbia, it causes vasoconstriction, and therefore the fluid, the volume going to the brain gets reduced. But we need to be very careful. It has to be used only for a short-term basis, especially we use it for head injury on a short-term basis, because if the PaCO2 drops below 30, the blood flow, there will be severe vasoconstriction and there will be no flow at all. And therefore, the hyperventilation is used only on a short-term basis. The next line of treatment is glucocorticoids, dexamethasone. Especially we use it for brain tumors. We give dexamethasone about 4 milligrams 6th hourly. The mechanisms of action is that the permeability of blood-brain barrier is decreased when we give steroids. It acts directly on the endothelial cells, reducing their permeability. Second, it shrinks the normal brain tissue, reducing the overall intracranial pressure. So dexamethasone we give 4 milligrams 6 hourly, especially useful for brain tumors. So this cerebral edema, the types of cerebral edema are especially important because lot of neurological conditions we need to know about cerebral edema. For example, brain tumors, there is cerebral edema, especially vasogenic edema. Head injury can cause edema. Ischemic stroke, even hemorrhagic stroke can cause edema. In fact, vasogenic edema will cause more of mass effects as compared to the cytotoxic edema, because fluid changes in the intracellular and extracellular compartments may be similar, may be same, but in vasogenic edema it pushes and causes more of pressure effects, and therefore vasogenic edema, especially in hemorrhage, it can be more deleterious than the cytotoxic edema of ischemic stroke. So we need to know all these basic concepts of cytotoxic edema, vasogenic edema, interstitial edema and osmotic edema to approach a person suffering from neurological disorders like tumors, head injury, ischemic stroke or hemorrhagic stroke or infections, abscess, diabetic ketoacidosis treatment confidently. So this is an overview of cerebral edema. I've enjoyed giving this lecture and I hope you have also enjoyed listening to my lecture. If you have any suggestions or comments, kindly post onto my YouTube channel. But please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. Srinivas Medical Concepts, and my FB page, Dr. Srinivas Concepts. Thank you. Bye.